President Claire Adams stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Consortium and delivered the speech that would reshape the galaxy forever. The communication was being broadcast simultaneously from over 300 human facilities, including dozens of installations within Consortium territory that aliens had never suspected existed. "You wanted to know if humanity was ready to join galactic civilization," she began, her words carrying the weight of 75 years of isolation and preparation. "We learned that your version of civilization had no place for beings like us, so we built our own." The demonstration that followed revealed the true scope of human achievement during their enforced isolation. What the Consortium had assumed was a small contained species had become something unprecedented in galactic history. Humanity had not simply advanced their technology, they had fundamentally reimagined what advanced civilization could accomplish. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Brooks coordinated the precision strikes that disabled the Consortium's primary shipyards without harming a single alien worker. The attacks were surgical, sophisticated, and completely impossible according to known physics. Human forces appeared inside the most heavily defended facilities in the galaxy, completed their missions, and vanished before alien security forces could respond. The technology demonstrations were carefully choreographed to show human capabilities without revealing their full extent. Dimensional engineering allowed humans to build cities inside folded space that were invisible to outside observation. Entire fleets could be stored in pocket dimensions smaller than a marble. Human colonies existed in the spaces between spaces, drawing resources from parallel dimensions where the same planets existed but remained uninhabited. Professor Amy Foster presented the scientific advances that had made human expansion possible. While the Consortium had spent centuries refining existing technologies, humanity had invented entirely new fields of physics. Dimensional mathematics allowed calculations that conventional computers could not handle. Quantum biology had extended human lifespans indefinitely. Environmental engineering could terraform dead worlds in years, rather than the centuries required by alien methods. The psychological warfare was equally devastating. Captain Tony Miller revealed the intelligence operations that had been monitoring Consortium activities for decades. Human agents had learned alien languages better than many native speakers. They understood political structures that aliens took for granted. They had identified weaknesses in the supposedly perfect alliance that alien leaders had never recognized. Dr. Emma Stone explained how humanity had solved problems the aliens had not even realized were problems. Human medical technology could repair genetic damage that Consortium science considered incurable. Their social innovations had eliminated poverty, crime, and political corruption. Their educational systems produced citizens who could think creatively while maintaining emotional stability. Most disturbing to the Consortium was the realization that humanity had not simply caught up to galactic civilization. They had surpassed it in virtually every meaningful category. Human ships were faster, their weapons more effective, their defenses more sophisticated. Human colonies were more efficient, their societies more stable, their economies more productive. General Pete Adams demonstrated the military technologies that made human dominance inevitable. Dimensional warfare allowed attacks from directions that did not exist in normal space. Human weapons could bypass any known defensive system. Their ships could disappear from normal space and reappear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. The tactical demonstration showed alien military leaders how completely their centuries of experience had become obsolete. Human fighters could appear inside alien shields. Their missiles could strike from parallel dimensions. Their ships could coordinate attacks across multiple realities simultaneously. Every assumption about space combat had been rendered meaningless by human innovation. Captain Luke Hayes led the operations that revealed the true extent of human expansion. While Consortium observers had been watching 23 quarantined worlds, humanity had been colonizing hundreds of systems throughout the galaxy. Human settlements existed in asteroid fields, gas giant atmospheres, and dimensional pockets that alien sensors could not detect. The economic implications were staggering. Human resource extraction capabilities made Consortium industrial output look primitive by comparison. Their manufacturing systems could produce goods at costs that would bankrupt alien competitors. Their transportation networks could move materials across the galaxy faster than alien communication systems could carry messages. Dr. Ben Carter presented the energy technologies that powered human civilization. While the consortium still relied on fusion reactors and solar collectors, humanity had learned to tap energy sources that existed outside normal space. Their power systems were orders of magnitude more efficient than anything aliens had achieved. The cultural revelations were, perhaps most shocking of all. Humanity had not simply advanced technologically during their isolation. They had evolved socially and philosophically. Human societies had eliminated the conflicts that still plagued even the most advanced consortium worlds. Their educational systems produced citizens who combined logical thinking with emotional intelligence in ways that alien psychologists considered impossible. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Bell coordinated the demonstrations that showed human environmental mastery. Dead worlds could be transformed into garden paradises in a fraction of the time required by alien terraforming. Polluted planets could be restored to pristine condition using techniques that worked with natural systems rather than against them. Agricultural advances were equally impressive. Human food production systems could feed billions while actually improving planetary ecosystems. Their biological engineering had created crops that grew in environments where aliens could not survive. Their aquaculture systems could populate dead oceans with thriving ecosystems in decades rather than millennia. Captain Sam Brooks revealed the transportation technologies that connected human civilization across impossible distances. While consortium ships required months to travel between systems, human vessels could cross the galaxy in days using dimensional folding techniques. Their communication networks operated in real time across distances that made alien systems seem primitive. The medical demonstrations showed capabilities that alien physicians could barely comprehend. Human doctors could regrow lost limbs, repair brain damage, and reverse aging processes that consortium science considered irreversible. Their understanding of genetics allowed them to enhance intelligence, strength, and lifespan without the negative side effects that had plagued alien enhancement attempts. Professor Tony Foster presented the educational systems that had produced a human population of universal genius. Every human citizen possessed knowledge and skills that would qualify them as experts in multiple fields by consortium standards. Their learning techniques could transfer decades of knowledge in months. Their creativity enhancement programs produced innovations at rates that alien researchers found impossible to match. The philosophical implications were the most disturbing aspect of human advancement. The species that had been rejected for being too emotional and too aggressive had achieved a level of wisdom that made consortium ethics look shallow and primitive. Human societies had solved moral problems that alien philosophers had debated for millennia without resolution. As the demonstrations concluded, High Arbiter Zelkov requested another private communication with human leadership. The same alien, who had delivered humanity's rejection, now faced the reality that his species had cast aside the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever produced. The conversation revealed the depth of consortium failure. Their peaceful alliance had maintained stability by avoiding challenges rather than solving them. Their advanced technology had stagnated because they had stopped questioning their assumptions. Their perfect society had become complacent because they had forgotten how to grow. President Adams listened to Zelkov's admission with the patience of a species that had learned wisdom through adversity. Humanity had not spent 75 years seeking revenge against the galaxy that rejected them. They had spent that time becoming worthy of the respect they had always deserved. The choice facing the consortium was simple, but profound. They could accept humanity as the dominant species they had become, learning from beings who had transformed rejection into transcendence, or they could continue resisting and face the consequences of opposing a civilization that had spent decades preparing for this moment. The galaxy had cast aside humanity and learned too late that some gifts, once rejected, could only be reclaimed through humility. The species they had dismissed as too young and too aggressive had become the teachers their stagnant civilization desperately needed. Admiral Kate Johnson stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and watched the most important moment in human history unfold on her screens. Around her, 50,000 human ships materialized out of dimensional storage at precisely the same instant. The coordinates had been planned for months, the timing rehearsed countless times. Every major consortium system now hosted an uninvited human fleet. The galaxy's reaction was immediate and panicked. Alien communication channels exploded. With confused reports and desperate requests for information, the peaceful consortium had not faced a military surprise in over a millennium. Their sensors had detected nothing until the moment human ships appeared in normal space, emerging from dimensions the aliens did not even know existed. Kate activated the communication system that would broadcast her message across every known alien frequency. The words had been carefully chosen and translated into every consortium language. This was not just a military operation. It was a declaration that humanity would no longer accept the role of galactic outcasts. "This is Admiral Kate Johnson of the United Earth Federation," she began, her voice carrying across the stars. 75 years ago, you rejected humanity's application for peaceful membership in your consortium. You declared us too aggressive, too emotional, too young. Today, we return not as supplicants but as equals who demand recognition. The message included detailed specifications of human technology, tactical demonstrations of dimensional warfare, capabilities, and a complete list of human achievements during their forced isolation. The aliens learned in a single transmission that the species they had quarantined had become more advanced than any consortium member. Commander Luke Hayes led the tactical demonstration that followed the announcement. His fighter wing materialized inside the shields of a consortium patrol fleet, appearing in spaces that should have been impossible to reach. The alien ships found themselves surrounded by enemies that had appeared from nowhere, using weapons that bent the laws of physics. The first engagement lasted 18 minutes. Human fighters moved in patterns that broke every known rule of space combat. They disappeared and reappeared at will, struck from angles that did not exist in normal geometry, and coordinated their attacks with a precision that no committee-based command structure could match. Consortium Fleet Commander Korthak of the Valdari had centuries of military experience. He had studied the tactical records of every known conflict in galactic history. Nothing had prepared him for fighting enemies who could fold space around themselves, who made decisions faster than his staff could analyze the situation, who treated the impossible as merely another tactical option. The human weapons were unlike anything in the consortium arsenal. Traditional energy shields that had protected alien ships for thousands of years proved useless against projectiles that folded through dimensional space to appear on the other side. Alien armor that could deflect conventional weapons crumpled under the impact of missiles that carried the kinetic energy of pocket dimensions. More disturbing than the technology was the human approach to combat. Where consortium doctrine emphasized careful positioning and calculated exchanges of fire, humans fought with a fluid creativity that defied prediction. Individual human pilots made tactical decisions that required no consultation with higher command. They adapted their strategies in real time, based on conditions that changed too quickly for alien command structures to follow. Dr. Ben Carter monitored the demonstration from the command ship and watched decades of theoretical work prove itself in actual combat. Human dimensional warfare protocols performed exactly as designed. The aliens had no defense against weapons that could appear anywhere, no counter for tactics that ignored the normal limitations of space and time. The psychological impact was even more devastating than the tactical victory. The consortium had based its entire civilization on the assumption that peaceful cooperation was superior to aggressive innovation. The human demonstration shattered that assumption in less than 20 minutes of actual fighting. Captain Ryan Bell transmitted the surrender demands as consortium ships retreated in confusion. The terms were simple and non-negotiable. The quarantine would end immediately. Humanity would be granted full membership in galactic civilization with all rights and privileges. The consortium would provide complete technological exchanges and open all trade routes to human vessels. The ultimatum included a deadline. The consortium had 72 hours to respond. During that time, human fleets would remain in position throughout alien space. Any attempt to attack human forces would result in the complete destruction of consortium military capabilities. The galaxy's peacekeepers were being offered one chance to surrender with dignity. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Brooks coordinated the intelligence operations that accompanied the military demonstration. Human agents revealed themselves throughout consortium, space, emerging from hiding places where they had operated for decades. The aliens discovered that humans had been living among them, learning their languages, studying their societies, and preparing for this moment. The intelligence revelations were carefully calculated to maximum psychological impact. Humans had not only penetrated consortium security, they had done so while maintaining complete operational secrecy for over 40 years. The Peaceful Alliance learned that their most closely guarded secrets had been known to human planners for generations. General Pete Adams observed the proceedings from Earth and felt a mixture of satisfaction and regret. The demonstration was necessary, but it represented the failure of diplomacy. Humanity had wanted to join galactic civilization peacefully. The consortium had forced them to take membership by strength, instead of earning it through cooperation. The human fleets maintained perfect discipline throughout the 72-hour deadline. No shots were fired unless consortium vessels attempted to attack first. Human commanders followed strict rules of engagement designed to minimize casualties while demonstrating overwhelming superiority. This was not a war of conquest. It was a demand for respect. Professor Amy Foster analyzed the alien responses and found them fascinating from an anthropological perspective. The consortium species had lived in peace for so long that they had forgotten how to respond to existential threats. Their decision-making processes were designed for careful deliberation, not crisis management. They were paralyzed by the need to choose between impossible options. The Valdari wanted to fight, believing their energy manipulation technology could eventually overcome human dimensional warfare. The Nexari calculated probabilities and concluded that resistance was mathematically futile. The Corvani searched for diplomatic solutions that might preserve their moral authority while acknowledging military defeat. Captain Tony Miller led the deep space operations that revealed the true scope of human expansion. While consortium leaders debated their response, human ships appeared in systems that were supposed to be uninhabited. The quarantine had been meaningless from the beginning. Humanity had been expanding throughout the galaxy for decades, hidden in dimensional spaces that alien sensors could not detect. The revelation that humans had already colonized hundreds of worlds beyond their supposed boundaries completed the psychological victory. The consortium had not been containing human expansion. They had been ignoring it. The species they thought they had quarantined had become the largest spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. As the deadline approached, High Arbiter Zelkov requested a private communication with Admiral Johnson. The same alien who had rejected humanity's peaceful application now faced the reality of human military superiority. His four eyes showed an expression that human xenobiologists had learned to recognize as fear mixed with respect. The conversation was brief and decisive. Zelkov acknowledged that the consortium had misjudged humanity's potential and admitted that continued resistance would result in the complete destruction of galactic civilization as they knew it. The peaceful alliance that had ruled the galaxy for 2 millennia was surrendering to a species they had rejected as too primitive for membership. Admiral Johnson accepted the surrender with the same dignity that Ambassador Cross had shown during the original rejection. Humanity had not returned to the galaxy seeking revenge. They had returned demanding the recognition they had always deserved. The demonstration was over, but the real work of rebuilding galactic civilization was just beginning. 50 years had passed since the galaxy told humanity they were not good enough. Captain Ryan Bell stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Frontier and watched the scanner readings with satisfaction. They were pushing right up against the quarantine boundary, mapping every asteroid and cataloging every resource the aliens had told them they could not touch. The rejection had changed humanity in ways the consortium never expected. Instead of becoming discouraged, humans had become angry. Instead of accepting their limitations, they had found ways around them. Instead of waiting patiently to mature, They had decided to show the galaxy what maturity really looked like. Ryan remembered the day the news reached Earth. He had been a young engineering student then, working on his first spacecraft design. The announcement that humanity had been rejected and quarantined had hit the planet like a declaration of war. Not war against any specific enemy, but war against the idea that humans were not good enough for the stars. The response had been immediate and total. Every human government had contributed resources to what became known as the Great Project. Every scientist, every engineer, every dreamer with an idea had been given funding and support. Humanity had united in a way they never had before, driven by a shared sense of rejection and a burning desire to prove the galaxy wrong. Dr. Emma Stone worked in a laboratory hidden deep beneath the surface of Haven, one of humanity's frontier worlds. The facility did not appear on any official records. To alien observers, Haven looked like a simple farming colony with a few thousand residents. They could not see the massive research complex that existed in folded space beneath the planet's surface. Emma had been working on dimensional theory when the quarantine began. The alien rejection had given her work new urgency. If humanity could not expand outward through normal space, they would have to find other ways to grow. The breakthrough had come 15 years ago, but humans had been careful to keep it secret. Dimensional. Folding allowed matter to exist in spaces that were bigger inside than outside. A storage container the size of a briefcase could hold an entire factory. A laboratory could be built in a pocket dimension that took up no physical space in the real world. Most importantly, entire fleets of ships could be hidden in dimensional storage, invisible to any sensors the consortium possessed. General Pete Adams reviewed the latest reports from the Shadow Fleet. 3,000 ships now existed in complete secrecy, built in dimensional shipyards that no alien scanner could detect. The vessels were unlike anything Earth had ever built before. They incorporated technologies that humans had developed in isolation, guided by their own needs and their own way of thinking about problems. Human ships did not follow alien design principles. Where alien vessels were built for committee decisions and careful deliberation, human ships were designed for individual commanders who could think quickly and act decisively. Where alien technology emphasized stability and predictability, human innovations focused on adaptability and surprise. The Shadow Fleet included fighters that could appear inside enemy shields, destroyers that could fold through space to attack from impossible angles, and command ships that could coordinate battles across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Every vessel had been tested in secret war games that pushed human tactical thinking to its limits. More importantly, humanity had learned to think beyond the boundaries the consortium had tried to impose. The quarantine zone included 23 worlds, but it said nothing about the spaces between those worlds. Human engineers had found ways to build habitats in asteroid fields, space stations that could fold themselves out of normal space when alien patrols approached, and resource extraction facilities that existed in dimensions the consortium did not know were possible. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Brooks led the intelligence division that had been studying the aliens for 5 decades. Humans had become very good at watching without being watched. They had learned alien languages, studied alien technology from a distance, and mapped every weakness in the consortium's supposedly perfect alliance. The intelligence reports painted a picture that surprised even the humans. The consortium was not as advanced as they pretended to be. Their technology had not improved significantly in centuries. Their military tactics were based on fighting other peaceful species who followed predictable patterns. Their alliance was held together by tradition and mutual benefit, but it had no experience dealing with a truly hostile enemy. Most telling of all, the consortium had grown complacent. They believed their own propaganda about being the pinnacle of galactic civilization. They had forgotten that advancement required challenge, that strength required testing, that wisdom required learning from failure. The peaceful alliance had become a peaceful stagnation. Professor Amy Foster studied the data from long-range observation posts. Humans had been very careful to stay within the technical boundaries of their quarantine while learning everything they could about their neighbors. The aliens made regular patrols of the quarantine boundary, but they followed predictable schedules and used sensors that could not detect dimensional technology. The patrols found exactly what they expected to: find humans staying within their assigned space, developing slowly, apparently resigned to their isolation. The alien observers had no idea that human civilization had grown far beyond the boundaries they could see. Hidden colonies existed throughout the quarantine zone and beyond it. Human research facilities operated in pocket dimensions. Human fleets, trained for battles the aliens could not imagine. Captain Tony Miller commanded one of the deep space reconnaissance ships that ventured far beyond the quarantine zone. His mission was officially impossible, and his ship officially did not exist. Using dimensional folding technology, the reconnaissance vessels could travel through space that was not quite normal space, invisible to alien sensors and able to observe alien activities without being detected. The intelligence they gathered was priceless. Human analysts now knew more about consortium military capabilities than many consortium commanders. They had identified weaknesses in alien shield technology, flaws in alien tactical doctrine, and gaps in alien defensive strategies. When the time came to act, humanity would not be fighting blind. The psychological preparation was just as important as the technological advancement. Humans had spent 50 years studying their rejection and learning from it. They understood, now that the consortium valued conformity over creativity, tradition over innovation, peace over strength. The aliens had rejected humanity for possessing exactly the qualities that would be needed to protect galactic civilization from real threats. Dr. Ben Carter led the team developing weapons that could function in dimensional space. Traditional alien defenses were designed to stop attacks that came through normal space along predictable trajectories. Human weapons could fold through dimensions to appear anywhere, strike from angles that did not exist in normal geometry, and deliver force in ways that alien shields were not designed to handle. The weapons testing took place in pocket dimensions, where explosions could be contained safely. Human creativity had produced missile systems that could appear inside enemy ships, energy weapons that could bend through folded space, and defensive systems that could make entire fleets disappear from normal space when threatened. As the 50th anniversary of the rejection approached, humanity made its final preparations. The great project was nearly complete. Hidden fleets were ready. Secret colonies were established. New technologies had been tested and refined. Most importantly, humanity had learned to work together in ways that even they had not thought possible. The galaxy had cast them aside and told them to mature in isolation. Humanity had used that isolation to become something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that combined advanced technology with aggressive innovation, peaceful cooperation with tactical flexibility, and diplomatic wisdom with military strength. The consortium believed humanity was still contained in their small corner of space, slowly developing under careful observation. They had no idea that the species they had rejected was about to return with capabilities that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Jake Morrison pressed his face against the cold metal of the viewing window and watched the alien space station grow bigger in front of their ship. The massive structure looked like a crystal flower that someone had built in the darkness between stars. Lights moved along its surface in patterns that hurt his eyes to follow. This was the moment humanity had waited for since they first looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. The ship UES Horizon carried Earth's best and brightest to this meeting. Jake commanded the vessel, but he felt small next to what they were about to face. Behind him, Dr. Lisa Parker checked her notes for the 100th time. She had spent 5 years preparing for this presentation. Every fact about humanity had been organized, every achievement cataloged, every hope for the future written down in careful detail. Ambassador Helen Cross stood near the communication panel, her diplomatic training evident in her calm posture. She had negotiated peace between warring nations on Earth, but this was different. This was not about borders or trade agreements. This was about whether humanity deserved a place among the stars. The Galactic Consortium had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 2,000 years. 12 different alien species worked together in perfect harmony, or so they claimed. Each species brought something unique to their alliance. The Valdari could manipulate energy like humans played with clay. The Nexari, who looked like living crystals, could think faster than any computer Earth had ever built. The Corvani served as judges and peacekeepers, their four eyes supposedly able to see truth from lies. When the first alien signals reached Earth 40 years ago, humanity had barely stopped fighting among themselves. The message was simple: prove you are worthy of joining us and we will share the secrets of the galaxy. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment. They had ended wars, cleaned their polluted skies, and learned to work together as one species instead of hundreds of competing nations. The docking process took 3 hours. Alien technology guided their human ship into a berth designed for vessels much larger than anything Earth had ever built. Jake felt like a child trying to park a bicycle in a garage meant for trucks. The artificial gravity felt wrong under his feet, too light in some places and too heavy in others. The meeting chamber was enormous. 12 different types of aliens sat in a circle around a raised platform where the humans would make their case. Jake had studied images of these species for years, but seeing them in person made his heart race. The Valdari delegation glowed with internal light that shifted from blue to purple. The Nexari representatives looked like living gemstones that had been carved into the shape of people. The Corvani judge sat at the highest position, his four eyes already fixed on the human delegation. Lisa spoke first. She explained how humans had learned to heal genetic diseases and extend their natural lifespans. She showed recordings of terraforming projects that had turned dead worlds into gardens. Her voice remained steady as she described human achievements in science, medicine, and engineering. The aliens listened without comment, their faces unreadable. Helen presented human culture next. She played music from every continent on Earth, showed paintings and sculptures that captured the human experience across thousands of years. She read poetry written by humans who had never seen the stars but dreamed of touching them anyway. She explained how humans had learned to value life in all its forms, how they had built societies based on justice and compassion. Jake took the platform last. He spoke about human courage in the face of impossible odds. He showed battle records, not to glorify war, but to demonstrate how humans could think quickly under pressure. He explained how human military leaders had learned to adapt their strategies in real time, how human soldiers could make split-second decisions that saved lives and won victories against overwhelming odds. The presentation lasted 6 hours. The humans answered every question the aliens asked. They provided data, statistics, and examples of everything they claimed about their species. Jake felt confident as they finished. Humanity had proven itself worthy of joining the galactic community. The consortium deliberated for 2 days. Jake and his team waited in guest quarters that felt more like a luxury prison. The rooms were comfortable but alien, with furniture that did not quite fit human bodies and lighting that made everything look strange. They ate food that tasted like nothing they had ever experienced and tried not to think about what the aliens might be deciding. High Arbiter Zelkov of the Corvani delivered the verdict. His four eyes blinked in a pattern that Jake had learned, meant serious consideration. The translation device made his voice sound mechanical and cold. Humanity shows promise, he began, and Jake felt hope rise in his chest. However, the consortium has decided that your species is not ready for membership in our alliance. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Lisa made a small sound of disbelief. Helen's diplomatic mask slipped for just a moment, showing the pain underneath. Your aggressive nature concerns us, Zelkov continued. Your short lifespans make long-term planning difficult. Your tendency to make emotional decisions rather than logical ones suggests you lack the wisdom necessary for membership in our peaceful alliance. The rejection came with conditions that made it even worse. Humanity would be quarantined in their current space. They could keep the 23 worlds they had already colonized, but they could not expand beyond those boundaries. No alien technology would be shared with them. No trade would be permitted. They were to remain isolated until they matured, as a species, though no timeline was given for when that might happen. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Jake spent most of that time staring out at the stars and feeling something cold and hard grow in his chest. The galaxy had looked at humanity and found them wanting. They had been judged as too young, too emotional, too aggressive to join the club of advanced civilizations. As the horizon approached Earth's solar system, Jake made a promise to himself and to his species. The galaxy would regret this decision. Humanity would show them what they had really rejected when they cast aside the most adaptable, most determined, most creative species they had ever encountered. The stars looked different now. They were not welcoming lights in the darkness. They were challenges waiting to be conquered by a species that had just learned they would have to earn their place in the galaxy the hard way. The surrender came not through military defeat, but through the recognition of an uncomfortable truth that shattered everything the consortium believed about their perfect civilization. Admiral Kate Johnson stood in the same chamber where humanity had been rejected 75 years earlier, but this time she was accepting the formal surrender of the galaxy's most powerful alliance. High Arbiter Zelkov's four eyes no longer held the confident superiority that had characterized his rejection of humanity decades earlier. The alien leader who had declared humans too aggressive and too emotional now faced beings who had transformed those supposed weaknesses into strengths that dwarfed anything the consortium had achieved. The surrender ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy, but it was not the triumphant conquest that many expected. Instead, it marked the beginning of a partnership that would save galactic civilization from threats the consortium had been too complacent to recognize. The first revelation came from deep space monitoring stations that had been observing the galactic rim for centuries. The Devourers, a machine intelligence that consumed entire star systems to fuel their expansion, had been slowly working their way toward consortium space. Alien observers had detected their activities decades earlier, but had dismissed them as a distant problem that could be addressed later. Captain Ryan Bell presented the tactical analysis that revealed the true scope of the threat. The Devourer fleet was enormous, numbering in the millions of vessels. Worse, they had been studying consortium defensive capabilities for years, analyzing alien tactics and developing countermeasures. Traditional galactic defenses would be useless against an enemy that had been preparing specifically to overcome them. The second threat was even more immediate. The Shadow Syndicate, a collection of hostile alien empires from beyond the galactic edge, had been probing consortium borders for weaknesses. Their advanced scouts had identified dozens of systems with minimal defenses and valuable resources. Intelligence reports suggested a full-scale invasion was planned within months. Dr. Emma Stone coordinated the joint human-alien analysis that revealed how completely the galaxy's peaceful alliance had left them vulnerable to external threats. The consortium military doctrine was designed for peacekeeping operations and disputes between member species. They had no experience fighting enemies who actively sought to destroy rather than negotiate. The solution required combining human, tactical innovation with alien technological specialization in ways that neither side could achieve alone. Human dimensional warfare capabilities provided the strategic flexibility needed to fight enemies who outnumbered them. Alien energy manipulation technology supplied the raw power required to sustain operations across galactic distances. General Pete Adams established the new military doctrine that would protect the galaxy. Human commanders would provide tactical leadership and strategic planning, while alien specialists would contribute their unique technological advantages. The Valdari energy manipulation systems could power weapons that reached across star systems. The Nexari computational abilities could coordinate battles involving millions of vessels. The Corvani diplomatic skills could maintain morale and unity during extended conflicts. The first test came sooner than anyone expected. The Devourer advance. Fleet entered consortium space while the Alliance was still adjusting to human leadership. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Brooks led the response that demonstrated how dramatically the balance of power had shifted. Human dimensional fighters appeared throughout the Devourer formation, striking at control nodes that artificial intelligence required for coordination. Alien energy weapons, powered by human dimensional generators, delivered focused beams that could destroy machine vessels across impossible distances. The battle was swift and decisive, but it was only the beginning. Professor Amy Foster analyzed the defeated Devourer technology and made discoveries that chilled everyone involved in galactic defense planning. The machine intelligence had been upgrading its capabilities based on observations of consortium military responses. If humanity had not intervened, the aliens would have faced an enemy that knew exactly how to counter every weapon and tactic in their arsenal. The larger Devourer fleet was still approaching, but now they faced defenders who could adapt faster than their programming could analyze. Human tactical creativity, enhanced by alien computational power, produced strategies that changed faster than machine intelligence could follow. The artificial enemies found themselves fighting opponents who could rewrite the rules of engagement in real time. Captain Tony Miller coordinated the rescue operations that saved millions of alien civilians from Devourer attacks. Human dimensional technology allowed evacuation fleets to appear instantly anywhere in the galaxy. Entire populations could be moved to safety in pocket dimensions until the threat passed. The efficiency of the operations amazed even the humans, who had designed the systems. The Shadow Syndicate invasion began while the galaxy was still dealing with the Devourer threat. The hostile aliens expected to face the same predictable defenses they had observed for decades. Instead, they encountered human-led forces that fought with a coordination and creativity that shattered their invasion plans. Dr. Ben Carter deployed the weapon systems that had been developed during humanity's isolation. Dimensional artillery could strike targets that existed in normal space from firing positions that did not. Human missile systems could deliver payloads through folded space that bypassed every known defensive technology. The invaders found themselves outgunned by defenders they could not even locate. The psychological impact of the defeats was as important as the military victory. Word spread throughout the galaxy that the peaceful consortium now possessed defensive capabilities that made invasion impossible. Species that had been considering aggression against their neighbors reconsidered their plans when they realized they would face human tactical leadership. President Claire Adams signed the new Galactic Compact in a ceremony that established humanity's role as protector of galactic civilization. The document was not a treaty of conquest, but a covenant of mutual responsibility. Humanity accepted the burden of defending the galaxy, while the consortium species provided the technological and industrial support needed for that defense. The arrangement benefited everyone involved. Human creativity and adaptability provided the innovation needed to face new threats. Alien technological specialization supplied capabilities that human science had not yet developed. Together, they created a defensive alliance that was stronger than anything either side could have achieved alone. Captain Luke Hayes established the training programs that would prepare alien officers for the new style of warfare. The peaceful species of the consortium had to learn how to think like predators without losing their essential nature. Human instructors taught tactical flexibility, while alien mentors ensured that defensive operations remained focused on protection rather than conquest. The galaxy learned to appreciate the qualities that had led to humanity's original rejection. Human aggression became protective instinct that shielded weaker species from external threats. Human emotional decision-making became compassionate leadership that prioritized civilian safety over strategic advantage. Human youth became adaptability that allowed rapid response to changing conditions. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Bell commanded the joint patrols that maintained security along the galactic borders. Human vessels provided tactical leadership, while alien ships contributed specialized capabilities. The mixed crews learned to combine their different approaches to problem-solving in ways that made them more effective than either species could be alone. As the years passed, the galaxy began to understand what they had really rejected when they cast aside humanity's original application. They had dismissed the one species with the strength and determination to protect galactic civilization from the dangers that lurked beyond their peaceful borders. Commander Jake Morrison, now an elderly man despite human longevity treatments, stood once again at the observation deck of a human vessel. The stars looked different than they had during his first journey to meet the aliens. They were no longer distant and forbidding, but familiar territory that humanity had claimed the right to defend. The galaxy had cast aside humanity and learned too late that mercy was the greatest strength of all. The species they had rejected for being too aggressive had chosen to protect rather than conquer, to save rather than rule, to serve as guardians of a civilization that had once found them unworthy. In the end, humanity proved that true maturity was not the absence of strength, but the wisdom to use that strength in service of others. The galaxy's greatest mistake had become its greatest salvation, and the species they had dismissed as too young to join them had become the teachers who showed them what civilization could truly accomplish.